So this is the RPS of fighting games. You got offense, turtle, and keep out. Turtle is a form of defense where you sit back and wait for your opponent to make a mistake. Keep out is a form of defense where you fish for counter hits to hit your opponent out of their offense. And offense is the act of applying pressure and hitting your opponent with mix-ups. So like rock, paper, scissors, you can apply the same things to fighting games. Turtle can bait and punish a keep out move. Keep out can use fast counter-hitting moves to prevent an opponent from coming in. And offense can overwhelm a turtle to break down their defenses. So we can go over the other parts of the rock, paper, scissors in future chapters of Art of the Throw. But how do you build your offense with King? So if you want to build your offense from scratch, you gotta understand the notion of frame advantage and what it means. Alright, so for example, when you're +5, your jab comes out 5 frames faster than your opponent's. Inversely, when you're -5, your opponent's jab will come out 5 frames faster than yours. Inversely, I sound like a fucking nerd. Anyways, my point is that when you're +0 to +5, you're in the realm of offense. Meaning, you're kind of incentivized to press the button. Now what button you press depends on how plus you are. You got moderate frame advantage, which is +5 to +6, high frame advantage, which is +7 to +9, and from then on out we have very high frame advantage, +10 and onwards. So here's the basic plan with how to build your offense. First, you group your moves by frame advantage. It's not rocket science, you just group them by how plus they are. So for each frame advantage, you gotta figure out what you can and can't press. So for example, if I do a jab at +5, can my opponent mash? Can my opponent step it? And then for each frame advantage, you choose around 5 moves that best suit your offense. So this really applies to any character, but since I'm a King player, let's build King's offense. So remember, the first step is to find out which moves lie under the moderate frame advantage umbrella. So that's +5 or +6. So first we got Stomach Smash. An excellent neutral too. Down forward 1-2, which is a great 14 frame punisher. Back 1-2, 12 frame punisher. And basically all of the heat dashes on block. So this applies to every character. When you have heat and you do a heat engager and hold forward, you're always going to be +5. So for the King players out there, here's a one-screen overview of all of the moves that I've just talked about. You can screenshot it, whatever, I don't care, I'm not your dad. Alright, but anyways, we completed the first step of this flowchart. Next, we're going to move on to determining our options for offense. So basically, you gotta go into practice mode and find out, okay, I'm +5 or +6, what can my opponent do against my buttons? So, for example, I have Giant Swing over here, and you can see me filling out the chart with what can the opponent do and what can the opponent not do. So green check means that in the situation, the throw connects, and red X means that the opponent has avoided the throw. And you can see that Giant Swing pretty much wins against everything except ducking, which is super obvious. I don't expect to be winning any Nobel Prizes for that, but you know, whatever. But if we move on to down forward 1, you get to see things that are a little bit more interesting, less obvious. So for example, I now have this new color, which is orange, basically meaning that the opponent has blocked down forward 1, so not getting hit by it. And you can see that down forward 1 does not track very well to King's left. So if you step right as the opponent, then you get to avoid his down forward 1 pretty well. So as a side note, the gray box basically means that it's inconsistent, so it's very matchup dependent if King's down forward 1 tracks to the right at +5. So after you've completed a whole list of moves and see what works and what doesn't at certain frame advantages, you then choose your 5 that you want to stick with. But to the surprise of no one, throws whiff when you duck. So it's a good idea to select at least one of these mids, so that way you can cover that. And you can see of those mids, down forward 2 seems to cover the most options, as it tracks really well at +5, and it's fast enough to become a frame trap, which is really cool. And if there's one thing I've learned that's really interesting, it's that Tombstone Piledriver does not track to King's left at all, which is really weird, but I guess it makes sense because he's throwing out his right hand. But we can see that Shining Wizard does not track at all unless you delay the input. Overall, we can begin to select 5 offensive options that complement each other really well. So here's what I selected. So you've probably heard of the saying that King is weak to sidestep right. And so I made sure to select the 5 moves that cover that option, while also giving you enough reward. Now, I know how it looks. Crouch throws seem like a really bad idea in this situation, mostly because it loses to just about everything but ducking. But that's kind of the point of it. It's a big call out against your opponent for ducking. And even though it whiffs against basically anything else, what you gotta understand is that crouch throws actually have 3 frames less recovery than standing throws. So what that means is that it can really bail you out of some situations where you would have gotten launched for trying a standing throw. So I really think crouch throws are underrated as a form of offense. So we've completed the last step and created our 5 moves, but we still have high frame advantage and very high frame advantage left to do. So for you King players, just sit back, relax, and, let me do the work for you. I'm not going over every single move that falls under moderate, high, or very high frame advantage, but these are just the most common moves you'll find in a real match. Alright, so after going through practice mode and looking at all of the moves again, this time with high frame advantage, we can see that forward 3 actually becomes a pretty good mid. It begins to track a lot more. We could also see that Tombstone finally tracks to the right, but Shining Wizard still does not track unless you delay it. So what I decided to do was group all of the standing throws into one big block, except Shining Wizard, and it basically tells you that you can do whatever throw you want. You just gotta make the decision based off of what you think your opponent will not break. I still like to do Muscle Buster and Giant Swing because it tends to work really well against high-level players. But anyways, here are my 5 moves. Now, you don't have to do exactly every single move I'm doing right here. It's just my preference, but I'm sure you can find yours. However, if you're kinda lost, then, maybe this can help you a little bit. That's what this video is for. Jabs are super effective against sidesteppers because they don't even have time to begin their sidestep. Sidesteps usually have about a 6 frame startup, give or take. Now we're getting into the fun part. This is where you have really high frame advantage and you have a lot more freedom to do whatever you want. The G stands for guard, meaning that the opponent can still block. Knockdown moves also fall under the umbrella of very high frame advantage, if and only if they tech roll or stand up. As a rule of thumb, all heat engagers are plus 17. And as usual, I made a little graphic here so that you can print it out and put it on your wall or something. So you can see that there's a lot of green here, but honestly, I feel like we can do a little bit better than that. King excels at obscure throw mix-ups, and we gotta exploit them here. I mean, we have to do it at some point, so here are all the moves that you can use to really mess your opponent up. All of the throws here look like a 1+2 break, but they could be 1, 2, or 1+2. It's impossible to tell. You're no longer relying on which hand comes out first. At this point, it's just a guessing game, and that's where King shines. Surprise, surprise, this is where the running giant swing comes in. It looks exactly like a shiny wizard, and so even the best players have to guess. Check out Chapter 2 to learn how to execute this. This is also where you can confidently do Jaguar step mix-ups. Just make sure that you mix it up with a mid as well, so that your opponent doesn't always duck. And who could forget the crouch dash throw mix-ups? What's really cool is that you can also do a crouch dash into a 1+2 throw to keep your opponent guessing. As for the mid, I really like to do the knee lift, mostly because it's safe, but also because you get a pretty cool combo out of it. Fun fact, heat smash is guaranteed. Yeah. Up forward 1+2 is not the only throw you can do. You can also do muscle buster, and down back 2+3. Each of these have their own techniques, and I'll cover this in a future Art of the Throw video. A lot of the moves that we just saw loses to mashing, so I like to use forward 1 and forward neutral 2 to keep them in check. So after all is said and done, you should have a group of moves that you can use for your offense. Now, am I telling you to always press a button after you have frame advantage? Absolutely not. In fact, it's critical that sometimes you hold back to see what your opponent is going to do. And if they mash, then as an added bonus, you get to punish them. Am I also telling you to only use these techniques at certain frame advantages? Also, no. For example, if someone is just holding back no matter what frame advantage you're at, then by all means, just use your very high frame advantage mix-ups on them. If someone is being very active at +5, then you should base your offense off of frame advantage. Well, this video is more than 12 minutes long, so I'm gonna cut it here. But yeah, this was the 3rd chapter of Art of the Throw. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Please subscribe. I'm gonna make more videos, I swear. It's just that these videos are passion projects that I really want to make sure are well researched before I release them. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.